I recently got this QK75 keyboard from Qwertykeys in the Milky white bundle. This is my first time putting together a mechanical keyboard, so I thought I would share my build experience as a complete noob. I really did start with minimal knowledge, so if you are already into the hobby, this may not be the video for you. Of course, you are more than welcome to stay and laugh. This is actually a private resale I found unintentionally while looking for a new keyboard. The seller mentioned he opened it to test the wireless connectivity and originally intended to use it himself. Other than that, it's brand new and should have all the parts intact. Inside the carrying case, I found the card with build links, a guide in Korean, the stabilizers, a 2.4 GHz receiver, and these rubber gaskets for mounting, the ribbon cable, rubber feet stickers, and screws. And this I learned is the brains of the keyboard, the hotspot PCB, which is offered in wired and wireless option. This one is a tri-mode wireless version and can be connected via Bluetooth, the 2.4 receiver, or wired if you prefer. Directly on the PCB is a thinner PE foam, and on top of that is a pour-on PCB foam. At first I was really confused with all the foam, but I learned that foam is personal preference and I can choose to use or not use the foams to change the sound and the feel of the keyboard. Another thing I learned was about plates, which sit over the foam and add another layer of customization. Since this was a private resale, I couldn't choose, but the seller included the FR4 plate.
FR4 refers to a type of flame-retardant material that is commonly used in the construction of printed circuit boards, PCBs.
Shown here with what are called flex cuts apparently, and the more flexible palm plate.
Palm plate for a keyboard is typically made of POM, polyoxymethylene, which is a type of engineering thermoplastic.
And here's my first look at the case of the keyboard. I love this color because it looks a little bit retro and is not a harsh white. It's a lot heavier than I expected, and I was impressed of the quality, feel, and heft of the board, given it's supposed to be on the more affordable side of mechanical keyboards. In here I found a golden knob. There are several knob and badge options, but I'm glad the seller chose this flower that looks like a cute cloud. We also have the encoder for the knob, the cables, and some complementary tools such as a screwdriver, keycap puller, and switch puller. Now that the unboxing is done, I worked on the stabilizers. Or rather, I learned what stabilizers are. I watched a Taeha Types video for preparing stabilizers, as his instructions were the most clear to me. Also, he has a very ASMR voice. I'll link it below if you need a good teacher. I did buy the paintbrush and the jar of Qwertykeys lube here because they aren't included in the kit. The switches that come in the bundle are factory lube, but the stabilizers won't be. So if you're like me and building your first keyboard, make sure to purchase your first container of keyboard lube to reduce the rattle. Putting together the stabilizers went pretty okay. It involved first putting the stems into the looped housing, then snapping the looped wires onto the housing. Also, make sure the two bottoms are facing the same way when you snap the second one in, as I made that mistake. And here we have the completed stabs ready to go. Now to open the case. The kit comes with a screwdriver, but here I'm using this electric one I got on Amazon as I thought it would be faster. Inside the lower case is one last foam, the pour-on case foam that will sit underneath the PCB. Below the case foam, I found the red brass internal weight. As this is a tri-mode wireless PCB option, the battery comes included and is housed underneath. At this point, I realized that the seller already connected the batteries for me when he tested it. But for FYI, the two battery wires need to be plugged here like this. The other end of the larger rainbow-colored JST cable will be plugged into the PCB later. I moved on to prepare the PCB before attaching the stabilizers. After removing the foam sitting on the PCB, I put the 8 stab pads on where the stabilizers need to be attached. I learned these strips are to reduce any noise and wobble between the stabilizers and the PCB. I struggled to put them on straight, as you can see here from the fingerprints, but I got them all on eventually. As I wanted to use a PE sheet this time, I installed the stabilizers over it instead of cutting it. However, you can also install the steps first, then just cut the PE sheet so it can go under the wires. The thicker pour-on sheet will need to be cut on the two sides of where the spacebar key is, like this. Then over everything goes a plate. I decided to use a palm plate this time instead of the FR4 plate. If you have a favorite foam and plate combination for this keyboard, I'd be really happy to hear your opinion in the comments so I can see what to try out next. Here are the Ashen switches included for the Milky White bundle and the matching keycap set. I did find the switches to be harder to press than I imagined, although I did enjoy this crunch sound when I pushed the switches into place. By the way, I promise it didn't take as long as it looks to build this. I had to build this in breaks, so there's a lot of changes in lighting. Next, I attached the ribbon cable to the rotary encoder. It is pretty straightforward. Just lift the black tab here and insert the ribbon, being careful to push it all the way in before closing the tab back down. Then I installed the encoder to the bottom of the case with the 4 screws. After laying down the case foam into the bottom, I did the somewhat difficult task of attaching the other end of the ribbon cable to the PCB, and finally attaching the other end of the JST cable as well. Actually, I wouldn't say this part is difficult, probably just awkward due to the restricted length of the ribbon cable in this open position. I almost forgot this step. I need to remove the translucent badge holder that comes pre-installed to make space for the knob. Just unscrew here and we're done. Now I can secure the installation. Just gotta slide these rubber pegs around the perimeter of the PCB and it just sits in the grooves. I thought this mounting system is really great for when I would want to redo the keyboard and change out the plates and foam. A simple peg system like this makes redoing the keyboard less daunting and saves a lot of time. I learned this mounting system allows for this keyboard to be built plateless for a unique sound and feel, although it's not recommended by most for the hot swap version. Put the case top back on and voila, we are almost done. The last step is to put the knob and the keycaps on. The knob is also very easy to install and is just fixed with 1 screw. All I had to do is make sure it was hitting at the right angle. I thought the bundle keycaps for this Milky White set have a great neutral color scheme that match well with the case color. As this is my first time installing keycaps, I'm not sure about the quality compared to other keycap makers, but I'll post about it in a future video if I change up the caps and switches from a different brand. If there's a keycap set you think would look good with this case color, let me know in the comments. I kind of want a second set just to change things up. By the way, there's a stepped caps lock and a regular caps lock in this set. If you want to install the regular caps lock, you'll need to install the switch upside down on the right side, otherwise keep the switch to the very left. I did somehow manage to break one switch pin and you can see the legs bent here, probably because I didn't press properly or pushed it too hard. And if you're going to be using the wireless mode, don't forget to turn this on, it's under the right shift.
Next morning.
And here are the finishing touches I did the next morning. I think the keyboard turned out really nice and now we can finally test to see if I didn't screw up building it. I paired it via Bluetooth by step 1, pressing the function key and tab key 3 times until the lights under keys 1, 2, and 3 flash together. Step 2. Press the function key and the Q key until the light under the Q key flashes rapidly. You should see it in your Bluetooth after this. And now for the sound test. Overall, I found the build experience of the QK75 to be beginner friendly and quite enjoyable. I also learned a lot about mechanical keyboards in general just from doing this one build. Good luck to you if you're also building your first keyboard or another QK keyboard, and hope you enjoy the process. If you have any tips on building keyboards or just want to say hello, please say hi in the comments. And this is me signing off from Tokyo.